YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and today I got another tier maker video for you guys. Yesterday I did the quarterbacks for the NFL, and it seemed to be pretty popular, so I thought, why not? Let's do a team version. Take all 32 teams, place them into one of these tiers: Super Bowl contender, Super Bowl hopeful, playoff hopeful, decent at best, first pick in the draft contender. So we're going to go through every single team here in just a second. If you guys want me to do any more of these, please let me know. We got plenty of prediction videos and hopefully live streams planned here for the future based off the NFL. Right before we get started, 20K is our subscriber goal. We're getting real close thanks to all the support out there. If you don't subscribe to our channel, we got daily sports videos. We specialize in the NFL, but we cover all sports for the most part. And then clicking that like button would be much appreciated. Checking out our Twitter. It's there in the bottom right. Also a link in the description for that, and our Instagram. Checking all that out would be much appreciated, helping us out. But back to the video. We'll go in order of the teams at the bottom here, kind of randomized. So if you notice the thumbnail, the Patriots are obviously in the Super Bowl contender category. They just won the Super Bowl, and I still really like their team. I like the coaching staff, Tom Brady. I actually think Tom Brady could actually step up this year. He had an off year for him last year. Still a good season, but a little off year. I think he could step up a little bit. They got a great running back group. Defense looked good as the season went on. I know they lost guys like Trey Flowers, but I don't think it's any secret or surprise that they're a Super Bowl contender. The Falcons I had under playoff hopeful. We seen them struggle last year, and I was kind of feeling them like they're gonna bounce back. They're gonna be healthier, and I was thinking they could actually win that division. I was almost thinking Super Bowl contender, Super Bowl hopeful, but then it's a very young offensive line now. So that offensive line could struggle a little bit. And, we got to see if Devontae Freeman can stay healthy for once. Very good running back if he's healthy. I like Matt Ryan, too. Matt Ryan can play, but how will that offensive line be? That defense is solid. Another group where it just needs to be healthy, and that's a question mark. So they're hopeful they get back in the playoffs, and they can potentially, if healthy, make a playoff run. The Giants, I had as first pick contender. I think they have one of the worst teams in football looking at the roster. There's always going to be some surprises when we get to the NFL season. But looking at the roster, no matter who's at quarterback, it could struggle, especially because the right side of the offensive line I've talked about in the past, it's not the best in football. And the left side's actually pretty solid. They got Saquon Barkley, who could be the very best running back in football. Receiver unit obviously took a hit without Odell. But I don't know if that's a huge loss because he's missed some games, kind of been a distraction, but the receiver unit's still not great. Looking at the defense, I like what they got for the future, not for right now. So that's where the Giants go. The Rams I put under Super Bowl hopeful, and people may say they're a contender. Well, yes, they can win the Super Bowl. I'm not ruling them out. Any team not under Super Bowl contender doesn't mean they can't win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. It's just these are legit Super Bowl contenders. And all the Rams were just there last year. I think their offensive line, another team in offensive line, I think takes a hit this year. A couple changes here and there. Some young guys got to step up. I like the way they drafted, so those guys can step up. But where another thing that concerns me is the pass rush, other than the D line. The pass rush from the outside linebacker position that needs to step up. So I think Goff needs to take a step up. I mean, it might be hard, but I think the offensive line, I just don't think will be the same. I really don't. And Todd Gurley, is he the same? So there are some question marks. Even though a very good team and a very well-coached team, there are some question marks. So even though I think highly of them because they're in that second best tier, I just don't know if I could put them under the legit Super Bowl contenders spot. The Buccaneers, I had under decent at best. There's a lot of holes in that team. Really, the amount of holes you look at, they could be a first-pick contender, honestly. But good coaching staff. I kind of think Winston will step up a little bit this year. They do have some pretty good talent here and there, but again, there is holes in the secondary and in the pass rush unit, and that's a big problem. I like Devin White, love the draft pick. They, like I said, they got some guys here and there who can be flashy, who can be real good. The coaching staff's good, but there are a lot of holes in that team, so they're under decent at best for a reason there. The Packers, I think, are a playoff hopeful. With Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, they're pretty much capable of anything. But I feel like we've been saying that every year. Everyone's been saying that every year, and it's been some years. I know he hasn't been healthy, but it's been some years, and I don't know if it's the same Packers team as we once saw, but they did get better. So they're hopeful to get back into playoffs, stay healthy, and it's one of those teams, if they do get in the playoffs, that means they're on the right track. That means everything's working out for them, and then they're a very scary team. So once you know they're in the playoffs, then you can bump them up this list. But there is some risk, predicting this team to be more than a playoff hopeful or just a playoff team. But I did like what they did in the offseason. The Colts I got for Super Bowl hopeful, and this is a tricky team actually because you look at the team last year, you look at them on paper. Really, the defense I expect to be one of the worst in football, and it was really good. It was really good last year. But on paper, it's still some of the same guys. Do those guys stay consistent? Are they good again? Does Darius Leonard? I don't see why not for Darius Leonard, but does he have that good of a season or better? I don't see why not. They add some guys, so really the defense got better, but will some of those guys play the same way, the surprisingly same way they played last year? In the offense, I like the offense. I think the offense will be really good, but they're up here because, I think they're a good young team and they're well coached, so I think they're a Super Bowl hopeful. I don't know if they're as good as the Rams. I'm just a little worried about the Rams' offensive line. Kind of got to wait and see for that because it could be good, but I just think it's a little different, and that could be, the difference there. But the Colts, Super Bowl hopeful. The Chiefs, I got under contender. I know maybe the defense isn't the best. I think the secondary and the linebacker unit will step up this year. The pass rush maybe won't be as good, but maybe it will be because they did bring in Frank Clark. But this offense, I think, is the best in football, even without Tyreek Hill. I think Sammy Watkins steps up. I think Mecole Hardman could be big time for them. So I think, with Mahomes, with that offense, I think this is a Super Bowl contending team. Cardinals are a first pick contender. I mentioned, all my prediction videos before this that the Cardinals could be a wild card team because they're impossible to game plan against for some teams. But it's really on Kyler Murray because it's going to be hard for a rookie, especially not playing against Big 12 defenses anymore, not playing behind that great offensive line. It could be a big, big difference. We already know it's a big difference. It could be just a huge difference from that college level to the NFL level. But they could throw some teams off, and that's why they could be better than this. But looking at their roster, looking at the struggles you could expect in year one for this team, it's really year one for this team. So for that reason, they could end up with the first pick again. The Vikings, the Vikings are a tricky one because I break down all these rosters. You look at this roster. This team should be at least a Super Bowl hopeful breaking down the roster, but they have trouble staying consistent. We don't really know the identity of their offensive line. We're going to say they got better. They definitely got better between coaching and who they got, but it's just a team that hasn't really been consistent. And they weren't in there last year, so they're a playoff hopeful. Again, looking at this roster, they should be more than this. It's really a letdown if they're not more than this, but that's where they're at right now. We'll see if they can get back in the playoffs. The Texans, I think, are also a playoff hopeful. I don't know if they're as good as the teams I have on there. I think they're the fourth best team so far. The last place team so far are that playoff hopeful because a team that I don't know if they really improve their offensive line. They're good for the future. Got some developmental guys in there, maybe a little better. I mean, it can't be worse, I guess. And then looking on the defense, they didn't really get better anywhere. They said they want to upgrade the pass rush. There's still holes across that team. So, but they won that division last year, so they definitely can make the playoffs. The Browns, to me, are also a playoff hopeful. On paper, look really good, but very young team. There could be mistakes at time. That kind of comes with the very young team. You can't expect the best from them. They're going to have their moments where maybe they'll lose some weeks because the young guys struggle a little bit. That's just something that happens. But a very good team on paper. They can definitely make the playoffs. They're a playoff hopeful. A lot of people are higher on the Eagles than I am. I put them under playoff hopeful. I think the offensive line takes a hit. I know they got Dillard in there, but there's been some injuries. Jason Kelce had multiple injuries last year, and there was talk that he could retire soon. So that's not really a good sign. They got some really good talented guys in there, though, but it could struggle. Wentz struggled last year. 2 years ago looked like an MVP. Struggled last year, though, and got hurt again. And there's got no Nick Foles to back him up. So there's some concerns there. The secondary got beat up last year. The linebacker unit took a hit this year. I like the defensive line, but they're not as complete as some of these other teams I was talking about, and there's a lot of questions with the quarterback staying healthy. So I put them under playoff hopeful there. The Broncos, man, the Broncos are a really tough one because you're looking at Joe Flacco. I think it's not the best quarterback situation. Offensive line, I think, got better. Receiver unit, I think, solid. Running back group, solid. But it's just really on that quarterback. But you look at the defense. You bring in Vic Fangio, who did what he did with the Bears, and there's a lot of talent on that defense. So there is a chance this defense actually, I don't think it will be the best in football, but there's a chance it could be top tier, it could be elite, and really there's a chance it could be the best. So for that reason, I think they have a chance for the playoffs there. And then speaking of, we kind of talked about Vic Fangio and the Bears. The Bears are without him. There's a lot of doubts with the Bears, not really for Bears fans. They're saying confident as they should, but there's a lot of question marks and doubts from people outside that, and I understand them. No more Vic Fangio. You got Pagano, who struggled, recently in his career, but they have the talent there. They were maybe one of the most healthier teams in all of football last year. People are doubting them to say that healthy. People say if Trubisky doesn't step up, he really gets. I'm on board with that. If quarterbacks don't improve, they actually get worse because teams kind of figure that out. They game plan, so he can't really stay the same. He has to improve. Some people doubt that. Some people are confident about that because it's only his second full year starting going to be. So there is some question marks, but this team, this defense, it's a really complete team. It's really on the quarterback because you look at the roster, evaluate the roster, it's a complete team. And where they got to last year, they were kind of a missed field goal away from possibly they could have went to the Super Bowl. Really, you could argue that they could have won. The next few games would have been easier than the Eagles games. So for those reasons, they still belong up here. I think they're a Super Bowl hopeful. The Niners might be the toughest team here to figure out. If it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have easily, no question, put them under playoff hopeful because they have talent. And if they were healthy last year, you could argue maybe they would have made a run. And we're already starting to see some injuries. Even Nick Bosa, he was hurt last year. He's already, I know it's a minor injury, but could that keep coming up? Garoppolo's a question mark for me still. He didn't prove anything to me. But I do like Shanahan's offense. I like the running back group. I think McKinnon's going to be great if he's healthy for them, and especially with Tevin Coleman. The receivers got better. This is the toughest team. This team is very capable of being a playoff team, but I don't know if I trust this team to stay healthy. I'm going to put them at the top of decent at best. The problem is they're much better than the Buccaneers, and they could be better than a team like the Broncos. So that's why it's tough. I just really don't. I don't know if I trust this team to stay healthy. It's just unfortunate. The Jaguars I put on a playoff hopeful. Pretty complete team. They could use some receivers, but I think people knock their receiver group a little too much. Marquise Lee's back. I think he's a very solid receiver, especially with Nick Foles at quarterback. And they have some other young guys that we expect to step up. They pretty much got better everywhere, I think. Offensive line is going to stay healthier, you would think, this year. I think this team's better than people realize. They were just in the AFC Championship 2 years ago. People base too much off of the previous year, and and then when teams surprise, people act just insanely shocked. It's about time we figure this out. I'm not guaranteed the Jags will be back to the AFC Championship team, but I think it's very possible. They have the team. They have the quarterback now. They just got to stay healthy, and they got to stay consistent. The Cowboys. The Cowboys may show a flaw in these tier groupings because I almost want to put them right in between Super Bowl hopeful and playoff hopeful because I'll put them under Super Bowl hopeful. I'll do it. I think they're right in between. It's just hard to see the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. I like Dak Prescott, needs to stay consistent though. Zeke, if he's on the field, he's maybe the best running back in football. I don't know what's going on with that. They have a solid receiver unit with Amari Cooper. They have a solid defense. They're pretty deep everywhere. So this team really should be up here. It's just hard to see the Cowboys. It seems like it's every other year with them. They're really good. They suck. They're really good. They suck. It's kind of like that. So I guess that has to do with health and the consistency at quarterback. But I do like Dak's game, so I'm going to put them up here. But I was hesitant. I almost want to put them at playoff hopeful, but you almost think they're a playoff lock. So that kind of puts them in between that group. The Redskins are definitely a playoff hopeful team. I think they easily would have made the playoffs last year if Alex Smith didn't get hurt, even with all the injuries elsewhere. I think just if Alex Smith didn't get hurt, they would have been in. And he was kind of a game manager. He didn't really do anything, he didn't wow. I think Keenum can be that guy. I think Haskins, even as a rookie, can be that guy. I don't think Haskins will wow, but I also don't think he'll turn the ball over like a madman. So, and the rest of this team's good. They got better elsewhere. They finally got some receivers. They had another pass rusher, Montez Sweat. They had some guys pretty much everywhere. It's about that offensive line staying healthy and the quarterbacks being game managers, not being heroes. So I think the Redskins can definitely make the playoffs. Pretty complete team if healthy. The Chargers, Finally, we got another Super Bowl contender. I put the Chargers up there. Maybe the most complete team in all of. I'm going to go ahead and say they are the most complete team in all of football. I don't really know where they have a hole. I mean, every team can get better in some spots. They can get better at the linebacker unit, but it got better through free agency in the draft. I wouldn't say there's a hole there. They needed to get better at D tackle. They got Jerry Tillery. I don't see a hole there. They have a ridiculous pass rush if everyone's healthy. There's no holes on this team. There are 0 holes on this team. Maybe they can get better at a right tackle spot, but they've drafted some young offensive linemen over the years, and we haven't really seen them step up because they already had good guys ahead of them or because they're injured. So I think they can step up now and they'll be solid. So I don't see any holes here. But, you know, are they the number one favorite team? I mean, they could be. They really could be. Something that's sticking with me, and I already mentioned you can't have stuff from a year ago stick with you, and it happens to everybody. But that Patriots game last year in the Super Bowl, can they get by the Patriots if they have to? That kind of sticks with me. But it's a new year. It's really, even if it's a very similar team, it's a new team. But I think it's a very complete team. So they definitely belong under Super Bowl contender. In the Steelers are tough too. I'm going to put them on a playoff hopeful. They weren't in the playoffs last year. They're hoping to get back. I think they're a playoff team. You know, I think that team is, I don't want to say complete, but no really giant holes, and they have playmakers here and there. Big Ben needs to take care of the football. You know, I think T.J. Watt seems to be getting better every year here, third year coming up. You know, he was pretty much top of the league in sacks last year. The secondary could be better. But, you know, I think this is a pretty solid team. You know, I don't think the loss of Le'Veon Bell definitely doesn't change anything because he didn't play last year. Loss of Antonio Brown doesn't change much for me. I think guys like, is James Washington Antonio Brown? No, but I think guys like that step up. I think Juju's got a chip on his shoulder now. I think he steps up even more what he did last year, which was a very good year. So I think this team's full of playmakers. It's just about Big Ben taking care of the ball, and the secondary could step up a little bit. So this could be potentially better than just a playoff hopeful team. But that's where I got them. The Ravens, another tough one because I love this defense. I like Lamar Jackson. You know, they had a hole at receiver. I think they filled that gap with Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin. I think that's a really good draft right there. They had a really good draft in general. I don't see any holes on this team, but I just can't quite. I thought they can do it last year. We got into the playoff. I thought they can do it last year, and I think they could have beat the Chargers, but I think the coaching staff just. I didn't like the offensive, you know, game plan for that game. So I do have some doubts with that. And, you know, Lamar Jackson, I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I think he's, you know, I'm a supporter of him. I think, whoa. Ravens aren't a first pick contender. The Giants, we were moving the wrong team there. I just think, you know, is Lamar Jackson ready to be, you know, take that next step? So they probably belong here, but I almost want to put them here because I really like how complete the team is. The Raiders, to me, are a decent at best team. I know they have weapons. I know Derek Carr with those weapons could be better. I know their offensive line got better, so that makes Derek Carr better. Yeah, they got the young weapons, the weapons of free agency. They did a great job there. That defense still will struggle. It still will struggle. They'll give up the passing yards. You know, I think they'll stop the run a little better. But they don't have elite pressure or not even close to it, and the secondary could struggle. I'm curious to see what they do, though. I think they can run a lot of 5 DBs in there, getting Jonathan Abram, playing him in the box a lot. So I'm very curious to see that. They actually can throw some teams off and could be very scary. But right now, you know, they're still young. They still got a little bit to work to do, and they're a decent at best team. The Titans, to me, are playoff hopeful. I mean, this is another team, if healthy, I think they're probably better than a playoff hopeful team, but they just can't seem to stay healthy. That's the main thing here. So even if they're beat up, though, they're right there making the playoffs. We've seen them, even though they were really beat up last year, they were still 1 game away from making the playoffs. So that's why, even though I don't know if I really trust their health, I still trust the team. They're a pretty complete team, really. The Lions I also put under playoff hopeful. Pretty complete team once again. I think there's really no giant holes in this team. They could use another corner. I mean, they can use a right guard. That's about it. You know, it's a pretty complete team. They got nobody that's really gonna wow. You know, I liked a couple of the receivers. I like Kenny Galladay, Kerryon Johnson if he's healthy. I really like Darius Slay. I guess is a wow corner. They got Trey Flowers now, so they do have a couple more. They do have a couple of those guys. So I think this team, people are sleeping on the Lions. I think this team might be better than we all think. The Seahawks, you know, I didn't really predict them. I did record predictions and everything. I didn't really predict them to do so hot, you know, game by game. But thinking about this team, with Russell Wilson, you're a playoff hopeful with Russell Wilson. There's no doubt about that. So maybe not the best team in terms of the entire roster as on this tier right here, playoff hopeful, but with Russell Wilson, with some young guys possibly stepping up, definitely a playoff hopeful. The Bills, we seen them in the playoffs 2 years ago. I think their defense is pretty solid. I just don't view them in the same group as these teams up here. I put them under decent at best, but probably one of the higher end teams on that group. Same with the Bengals. They got to stay healthy. Dalton's got to finish the season. Really, when it gets later, even if he is healthy, doesn't play the same. The offense gets going early in the year. The defense is very young. I like the talent on the defense. It's one for the future. I just think they're a decent at best team right now. The Dolphins, people were talking about them being the worst team in the league, and I was kind of, thinking, they got some talent still. Looking at their defense, they got some talent, but looking at it again, I think the offense could really struggle, mainly because the offensive line and then the pass rush. Even though I liked a lot of guys in the defense, like the secondary, like the linebacker, the pass rush could hurt the defense. Even though they're really good secondary, you can't cover forever. So I'm going to put them down there, mainly because the offensive line will affect the offense. The Jets were a team that, people were hyping them up, and I thought, yeah, they can step up this year. But now, knowing that, all the firings tell me something at least. All the firings, it tells me that Gase and the coaching staff don't like the players they have in there now. They even fired scouts. They don't think they're scouting right. They don't think they're finding the right players. That tells me they're concerned about the very near future right now, because they don't have they have some of the right players. That's what this offseason and draft was for, but they don't have all the right players. So that scares me a bit. I'm actually going to put them down here. I'm not a huge fan of Gase's coaching style either, even though if he thinks he doesn't have the right players, it's the right move he did, even though I'm not a huge fan of him. I think Darnold could struggle a little bit still. I know they got Le'Veon Bell. There's just not a lot of exciting things about that team. I'm a big Jamal Adams fan, but and a big Quinnen Williams fan, but it's just as that team as a whole, I don't really think they'll get the first pick, but I don't think they're as good as the teams right above them. I mean, this is one I'm split on. It could go either way. I'm not a big believer, honestly. And the Panthers, I'm a big Cam Newton fan. I like McCaffrey a lot, but I love the way they drafted, but I'm going to put them under decent at best because will Cam stay healthy? That's one. With that offensive line, will he stay healthy? The weapons are pretty bad right now, to be honest. DJ Moore, I like DJ Moore's potential. Then McCaffrey, I like McCaffrey, but can the offensive line block for him enough for him to be a top tier? And then all that will be okay as long as they stay healthy if their defense is very solid. I don't think it's very solid. I love the way they drafted. The secondary could struggle a little bit at times. The pass rush can struggle. Burns could break out in his rookie year, but is it enough? There's a lot of question marks with this for this team with me. So that's where I got them for now. But they have the pieces there. They got to finish this build. They got to finish it. I like the way they drafted. They got to pick up some good free agents this next free agency to get back to. And that's a team with just one offseason that they can go from here to here. I'm serious about that. So any other teams like that, if the Niners prove me wrong, they stay healthy. Yeah, they can definitely move up 2 tiers. The Raiders, another free agency and offseason, they can move up 2 tiers. The Bengals, with the growth of that defense, young talent on the defense, they can move up. The Bills, same. It's pretty much the same thing all around here. And the Saints, I put on their Super Bowl contender, legit Super Bowl contender. Only one NFC team. That's tough. I just don't, want to put. I explained why. It's hard to put some of those other NFC teams as a legit Super Bowl contender. But that's what I got. Some tough ones here, so let me know your guys' thoughts, where you would place teams. If you want to make yours, screenshot. I'm going to put a link in the description for this. So if you want to make yours, screenshot it and share it on our Twitter there. Link in the description for that. That would be great. We can talk about that on there. Any more of these you want me to do? Any other video suggestions? We have plans. We have plenty of videos to come that are kind of in the works. We got a long time for the NFL season to start, though. And then in season, we have full coverage, weekly picks, score predictions, all kinds of fun stuff there. So we got you covered here at the Goat House. 20K is our subscriber goal. Already showed you guys that. You guys know. But that's going to do it for this one. And I will do power rankings too. Another thing, I'll actually rank the teams before the season starts, and then every week I'll update the power rankings. So it'll be somewhat similar to this video, but we'll actually have exact numbers, exact rankings next to the team before season and as the season goes on. So I can't wait for the season to start. I know you guys are the same way. So can't wait to cover it. Can't wait for you guys to come back and join us for that. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for the support. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.